Well, what's next is the NBA draft in about a month. And that's probably the next shoe to drop. But then after that, it's going to be Draymond Green. What happens with Draymond Green? He's got June 29th is the day where he's got to say whether he's opting in or opting out. And just hearing Mike Dunleavy talk about Draymond, it doesn't seem to me like they want anything more than for him to either play one more year or opt out. I don't think they want to tear that thing up and tack another year on.
See, I would bet there before that date, we will get notified that he's got multiple years coming.
I'm starting to think that's not going to happen.
Wow.
And that is going to be, I wouldn't say issue number one, but
would be,
what happens when the Warriors make it clear to Draymond if they go this route that they're not going to give him an extra year? How's he going to deal with that? Because it's clear he made it obvious he wants one more year and he's willing to take a little less annually. But I don't think that's the route the Warriors want to go down.
What message does that send to Dre, if we could just stop there for a second? Because we know he's a perfectionist. We know he's smart. He's business savvy. I mean, if I were Dre and they didn't rip that thing up and I got multiple years, I've already said I want to retire here. I don't want to uproot my family. Stoddy, I think, and I'm not saying he would say it into a microphone if it goes down this way, but that would bother the bejesus out of me.
Yeah, and that's why, they obviously that's part of the equation. But I think anybody who looks at this team realistically and they see where the Warriors are cap-wise, I'm starting to think that they know that's not the best move for the organization. And that's fine. The question is, what does that mean for Draymond Green? Could Draymond Green just simply come back and play at $27.8 million and hey, if you have a great year, we'll talk about the next one. But that's something I think that's the next big thing for me is what happens to Draymond Green. And if on June 29th he says, I'm exercising my player option, I'll be back for one more year, that to me is not the end of it. It might only be the start of it. So they've got to figure out what to do with Draymond Green. I was also thinking about this. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but
give it to me.
The position Mike Dunleavy took and where they're at. Again, I'm not saying
he had to see it coming, though.
Exactly, but I'm starting to think what he might not have seen coming was some of the constraints that he's facing. That if he had total control over, he might go in another direction, but they're just not there yet.
That's interesting.
They're just not there yet. And, the one thing this team doesn't seem to be saying yes to is just your normal, old, regular rebuild. Through the draft, here and there free agency, see if we can get this thing going in a couple years. It just doesn't feel like they're there yet.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. And the tea leaves I'm reading or we're reading, and I know we got difference of opinion at times on different subject matters, but listen, if it were me, when Dre went, for lasagna dinner or whatever they had when he went to Lake Ups, he won the 4-400, right? Shocked some people. Do you think he really could throw, and I got to be careful here with this verbiage, a hissy fit if they didn't do what he hopes they do and rip it up and give him multiple years? Because I will say this, I don't want to talk for you, but it sounds like I don't want to say you think Mike D was being evasive, but he didn't go down that rabbit hole of basically assuring Dre's going to be here forever, like it was just imminent that something's coming with Dre. I feel like you felt like Mike not avoided it, but it was quite on the set in that regard.
Yeah, I feel like it's all I know is they asked him about Draymond Green, and we know Draymond Green, as a player option, and we also know that Draymond Green said he would love to get a new contract and tack on a year. So when Mike Dunleavy was asked about Draymond, he could have said, well, there's a number of things we can do with Draymond. In theory, he could opt out if he wants to become a free agent, or he could clearly pick up his option, and we'll be happy to have him back at 27.8, or maybe there's a deal to be made where we extend him. Blah, blah, blah. He didn't say that. All he said was Draymond has a decision to make on his player option, and when he does that, we'll act accordingly. So Dunleavy's making it sound like there's nothing really for us to do. Draymond's got the decision, and we'll adhere to whatever decision he makes. But I didn't hear one time Dunleavy say, but we're open to more years. It would have been easy to say, even if it were unlikely, just to kind of, I don't know, mollify people, but I don't think that's the case. I think they're ready to sit tight with Draymond, and this could be his last year with the Warriors coming up.
Man, like I said, it doesn't sit well with me watching this whole playoffs. And I mean, we're on the eve of the finals with the conference finals and both conferences getting ready to start here tonight. But just not having this team in the playoffs it doesn't sit well with me. And I will say this, outside of Draymond, I don't know what word or adjective I could use to describe the pit that's in my gut. And it's no blame on Jimmy Butler, but what he represents now is him trying to get back to his superpowers, when he'll be able to do that, and if he can do that. I mean, man, they took a swing, and it was good for a second, Steiny, but if you just think about Jimmy Butler, where he's at physically, the money on the books, I mean, that's like your transmission going out in the car. You can go get a new one, but it'll never be the same, right? So to me, that's something hovering over this franchise. And hopefully all we can do right now is pray that he comes back, and when he does come back, he'll be close to what he was when he went out.
Yeah, and then the other thing I kept thinking about, and it was, when Steve Kerr was talking about all the things that impacted his decision. So part of me wants to say, okay, so let me get this straight. And the first thing is this emphasis on turnovers for the first 5 or 10 minutes of these press conferences.
Wow.
Turnovers. And the thought was that the turnovers are an indication that the Warriors have, the ship hasn't been as tight as it's been in the past, and Steve got a little loose. Well, turnovers have been an issue for this team for all of Steve Kerr's tenure, essentially.
But they were a powerhouse.
That's right. But, he also said he didn't do a good job this year. He said he didn't have a good year. And he called him a fading dynasty. And the more and more I think about it, I'm just really trying to claw at what his motivation is for coming back. And if someone out there could possibly tell me how this is not going to end, how this ends well for Steve Kerr in the next 2 years. Like that's the question I have.
Well, right now, don't you feel like he's got a bad hand? Forget coaching, just with the personnel, the age, the injury. You can say all you want. I can tell my kids.
So why does he want it? Why does he want? Why does he want to stay
Steph
here?
and Dre. He wants to see it through.
Yeah, I'm a little more skeptical of that. I really am. I mean, I'm sure that would be great if he could go out with Steph and Draymond. My question is, what are the Warriors hoping to accomplish the next 2 years?
Like I said, right now it better be, I hope it is, and I think it is, make the playoffs.
Well, and that's the thing. If it's just make the playoffs, there are moves out there that they can probably make for next year. But, okay, they make a move or two for next year, and they get into the 7th seed, and they make the playoffs, and they lose in the first round. There's a chance they're in a worse spot the year after than they are now if they forego that number 11 pick for a veteran. And again, I'm really struggling to find Kerr's endgame here. That's all I'm saying.
I think he told us he wants to go out with the Chef and Dre. And it's funny, you saw Bob Myers over the weekend. I'll bring up Bob because the streets are saying this. Bob got out, and a lot of people say he got off a ship that was sinking. And I know you didn't ask him, but I'm sure he doesn't have bags under the eyes because he's sleeping well without dealing with these problems. And I bring that up because I think of Phil Jackson, and as great as he was, we always say, well, Phil took, Shaq and Kobe, Scotty, and it was easy to take those jobs. I almost respect Steve for coming back because you didn't have a pair of aces in your hand. You know what I mean? Like, you know it's going to be some turbulence and rocky.
And again, that's kind of what I'm saying is I feel like if you're in the NBA and you're a player, you're a coach, you're a front office guy, you're an owner, I think the Warriors have to be realistic about next year and what they really hope to accomplish and how much they can truly improve in a year where they have no idea if Butler or Moody are going to play.
Wow,
I mean, there's a situation where by the time Butler and Moody get back here, they're just not even a factor.
Let's hope that, like, you're wrong, but it's real.
We can hope all we want, but the reality is that this team without Butler and Moody was not a very good team, and they're not going to be a very good team for 40 or 50 games next year unless they do something that almost single-handedly addresses next year and only next year. And I just think that could be a dangerous path to go down.